Okay, welcome everyone. Uh, welcome. Welcome everyone to the Unconference session on Open Science Competence Centers here in the EOSC and beyond. My name is Natalia Galica. I represent National Science Center Poland and EOSC Focus project. This session is collaboratively organized and hosted by 5 projects, namely Skills for EOSC, OSCARS, Euroscience Gateway, EVERS, and EOSC Focus. But it is also kindly supported by the OA5 expert group on skills training, reward, recognition, and upscaling. Excuse me. So in this session, we will in fact try to collaboratively work and collectively reflect on the issue of competence centers, their definition, their mission, the functions, but also the synergies between them, future challenges and opportunities. So from the technical point of view, just a few information. We will start from 2 presentations and then we will move to the debate, which will be truly participatory. We will ask the online participants, but also you present here in the room to contribute to share your knowledge and to share your experience in competence centers, in skills building and training education, to share it with us. It will be possible either for your direct participation in the room or through online participation via Slido. So the first speakers of today will be Sara Di Giorgio, representing Italian Research and Education Network GAR. She's also representative of the mandated organization to EOSC. She's a coordinator of Skills for EOSC project, and Romain Davy, who represents European Research Infrastructure on Highly Pathogenic Agents. He is the coordinator of Work Package 3 in OSCARS, focusing on the testing and widening uptake. So, dear speakers, the floor is yours.
So, thank you very much. In my few minutes, I will introduce you briefly to the Skills for EOSC project. The project has the objective to unify the current training landscape, trying to fill the gaps, identifying the EOSC strategic research innovation agenda, about open science, this lack of open science and data expertise, the lack of a clear definition of professional data profiles and corresponding career path, and the fragmentation in training resources. So our project, Skills for EOSC, started in 2022 and now will end in August 2025. So we are in the last year of our project, and it's a very wide consortium. We are 46 partners, and we include 2 ESFRI, the EPOS and OPERAS. So the project is based on a competence centers concept because we are addressing these challenges in the research landscape thanks to our network of competence centers, where we are taking a systematic approach to upskill researchers and professionals. So at this moment, the competence centers in our network are trusted reference points at national, regional, and thematic level, and here you see the competence centers in our project make a network, and we are working to coordinate and align all these competence centers, but we are not just creating training materials. We are also building a sustainable ecosystem where curricula and learning resources are harmonized across Europe. At the present, we have 8 competence centers, and that includes competence centers located in France, Italy, Luxembourg, Greece, Sweden, Slovenia, and Finland, and North Macedonia. And but we are in contact with other 10, so we are very confident to build a really live network of competence centers. Our network competence centers then are linked to professional networks and user support networks. And so we are supporting also the creation of new professional and user support network, and we try to connect this community to the competence center. So here, just to have just a flavor of what we are offering to the competence centers. So the most important and the basement, the pillar of our project are the two methodological results. We call the minimum viable skill set, the methodology to identify the essential skills for different roles that are identified in the open science workflow, and then the fair by design methodology that we apply to create the learning resources in order to be fair since the beginning. Then we are creating a recognition framework for the trainer certification, and that includes also guides on the use of open badges and the European digital credentials. And then, it's very important, our program from Train the Trainers that is tailored to all these profile that we have identified, and these courses are erogated by the competence centers. So here, just to say that, yes, as I said, we have a specific mandate also to create a discussion among competence centers, and yes, these are the focus on the train of trainer masters. So that the competence centers have the mandate to train master trainer within the project, and then they will replicate the courses within the national community. So just a few words to say that yesterday we had a first in-person meeting of our representative in the competence centers, and yes, it was very live discussion, and just to put here some ideas and thoughts. Of course, there are there are more and more of this, but the most important is that we have discussed the competence centers and EOSC node should be complementary and integrated, because they play they have this role or facilitator also towards the national research community, and they can be facilitators and knowledge brokers toward the national community and keeping this at the European level. So yes, this is my initial talk about the competence centers, and thank you.
I have 3 minutes now to present a few words about the EOSC project and the cluster competence centers and the terminology issues that are associated with this démarche. So first, a little reminder of the context. We are working on the semantic web, on the principal mission of the EOSC, that is to develop a web of fair data and services. And services is how to understand what is behind the services, and how they are connected, what are the skills that are necessary, and how they are understood in each cluster. So for that, we try to set and implement a cluster's open science competence center that is called CLOC. It's a community-based virtual hub dedicated to fostering research excellence through training and knowledge transfer, and provide expertise, best practice and services in relation to open science. So we have to identify for that composable open data and analysis services in each cluster and understand what is behind through, for instance, a virtual research environment. And for this, we have 16 million euros that were provided partially in the first open call and will be provided in the second open call during the end of the year. So we have in this project 4 years to work also on different elements to foster the uptake of open science in Europe. It will be based on community-based competence center definitions on all the elements that are composing this competence center, but also tools in the Work Package 3 that will help for that, like a data steward registry and a dashboard, a conceptual dashboard, but because it will not be operational at the first step. And we will try to build that together with all peoples in the EOSC project. So now we are at the step to define and to choose the terminologies that are used in each cluster to understand what are the perimeter of terminologies, how to identify and discuss key issues about these terminologies, and organize the steps and tasks to improve this terminology and what is behind these competence centers. So for that, we need to also reuse all démarches that are already existing about competence centers in Europe, and indeed in Skills for EOSC démarche, but other projects also in EOSC and outside of EOSC. And we have also the issue about possible model of governance for terminology and for competence center. We have to identify how we can crosswalk between clusters about the issues about terminologies. So for that, we have planned to launch a paper, an open paper, with a method called radical collaboration that will permit all of you to be invested in this paper. So during this debate, we will talk about that, but also you will have the opportunity to work after remotely on this paper. And at this step, we have identified priority terms and digital objects to talk about in this paper as a core of the terminology issues linked to Competence Center in the OSCAR project, and some démarches, but other will be listed indeed because they are not all here. And we will try to invest all peoples that are part of any démarche about competence, about terminologies in data management. So at this step, the first call was selecting 58 projects, and I have other things to say about this project selected, but they will be part, certainly, of the competence centers that we will develop in each cluster and through clusters. For me, that's all.
Thank you very much for the contribution and the introduction to the topic of competence centers and sharing your knowledge and experience from the projects and from the experts and obviously from the participants. Thank you very much. Now we will be moving to the second part, which will be more participatory. I would like to invite 4 our experts to the stage to participate in the panel. I would like to ask Sarah, Romain, Björn, and Fotis. Just briefly to make your participation, we will obviously show you in a minute the QR code, but you don't have to take it now. It will be possible when we ask questions as well. So let me introduce the 2 new panelists, because already with 2 you are familiar. I would like to welcome Björn Grüning, who represents Galaxy Europe, but also Galaxy Training Network, and he represents Euroscience Gateway project. And I would like to also welcome Fotis Psamopoulos, who represents Center for Research and Technology, Hellas, and the project EVERS. Now a few words about the projects, as for those people who may not be familiar with those. So Euroscience Gateway will leverage a distributed computing network across 13 European countries via user-friendly gateways. They will facilitate the access of researchers and the stakeholders to the compute and storage infrastructure, services, tools, and data, as well as workflows. It offers the Galaxy framework and works across disciplines and across research domains. And the second, or fourth, in fact, the represented projects, so EVERS, a European Virtual Institute for Research Software Excellence. It is a project jointly coordinated by SERF and BSc, and in fact, it builds upon the existing knowledge and experience of competence centers in the area of research software and and codes. On the main target, the main purpose of the project is to create a framework for the research software and code excellence, which should lead to the creation of the network for research software quality. It is community-based. It is created and championed, advanced by the collaborators participating in the project. The ultimate goal of the project is to change the research culture and recognize the role of the software and its developers, its contributors in the excellence of research projects. So now we will start the debate. Once you know all the discussants, our panelists, I would like to ask you the first question. First, we will ask the panelists to respond, but we would like to ask the audience to participate in the room, ask and share your knowledge and experience in the area of competence centers. And for those who are with us online, we would like to put your comments and responses via Slido, and we will try to read a few because our time is very limited. However, we would like to tell you that all your contributions will be highly valued, as we will obviously recognize and credit them in our post-event and follow-up materials. So the first question, if you are ready, so in your opinion, what are the key functions of competence centers? So let me ask Sarah to start.
So yes, in the Skills for EOS project, the competence centers are hubs of training and knowledge around open science and fair research data management. The competence center can have different forms. They could be an organization or a network of organization and experts. It is important for us that are recognized by the wider national communities, and they provide mostly training, but also tools to harmonize curricula. So as I said, the minimum viable skill set is the reference point to create a new training program according also to the fair by design methodology.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Fotis?
All right. So the quick response on that front would be primarily setting a common understanding of the standards and expectations for the skills required for research software. This could be on the national level or at the international level. And the second point is to make sure that the knowledge base, the expectations of research software quality and excellence are aligned as much as possible. So across domain, there is a common core of these perspectives. But also if you're going domain specific, you can identify what would be the particular elements that are very unique and expected in that particular effort.
Thank you. Romain?
You hear me? Yeah?
Yeah,
okay. In the OSCAR framework, we have prepared 2 weeks ago a workshop, and we were asking what is behind this idea of competence center, and the main result is it is based on services and skills that are necessary for these services, but also behind these services there are tools, there are online tools, and there are a way to organize a community and to organize the work on a community with these services. And that is the important point, to link the community and a perimeter of a community to a service, to permit it to develop its impact on the community, on researchers primarily.
Yeah, so I guess from our standpoint, it's to provide a gateway for the long tail of science. So for me, it's still the question, how do we reach actually the end users? And I think a competence center, or in that case, the Galaxy Training Network, try to be this entry point where you really can go, you have a scientific question, you find maybe a training, and you can directly execute it on public available infrastructures. So being this gateway to facilitate then the access to all these services, to hardware, to tools, to workflows, is one of the key functions.
To welcome your comments or the comments of our participants online. You will be able to see the answers, some of them obviously. May I ask you to...
Quite a challenge for the competence centers. And yes, we totally agree, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Another one.
Hello. We are moderating over here your Slido questions, and currently Natalia is posing questions for you guys to answer in Slido, and there will be a Q&A session for you guys for which we will choose the questions after. So far we had one person responding to Natalia's question on the screen.
Yes, so Sarah commented, thank you very much, and we will move on then to second question. Maybe there will be more responses. However, maybe someone from you would like to contribute to this question. In your opinion, in your practice, do you see any other functions that haven't been mentioned yet? Okay, so we'll leave it. Yes, can I ask you?
Thank you. Coming from a perspective of universities, we learned that services, especially training, needs to be focused on the daily life of the researcher. And that means differentiating by discipline. Could you say more about, because in the EOSC project, I read that there are scientific fields represented in the skills for
EOSC.
Skills for EOSC. Is that also like is that something you focus on? And the EOSC program, you focusing specifically on disciplines and would that, no?
Yes,
All right, that's a very good point, because ultimately the main role of those projects are to cater to the individual researchers, as Bjorn actually mentioned before. There are cross-domain trainings. Talking about research software, some fundamental aspects are common regardless of which domain you're coming in. But then, where you're going to a particular domain, high energy particle physics or astronomy or life sciences, you might require additional, more specialized training for that particular domain. So the role of a competence center, in my mind at least, and that's not saying a lot, is essentially that a competence center can identify the best way to deliver this kind of training, collect the material itself, and make sure that it's as accessible as possible for the people who are going to actually deliver it. The content of the training itself should be maintained by the competence center, but also by the direct involvement of the experts on that field. It's not that a particular competence center can create everything and everything.
Yes, because one of the key function of the competence centers is also to keep and to enlarge also the community of experts. So, and through this, the competence centers is recognized as a hub to access then multiple expert group or other competence centers, let's say, based in a specific thematic domain or organization. So,
can we, yes? Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Just wait, could we wait for the mic? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very important to distinguish between the network of trainers and the network of competence centers. The generic approach that is, as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is taken in skills for EOSC, whereas in OSCARs, and that's also referring to what you were just saying, the focus is on domain-specific or cluster-specific competence centers where the demands of specific communities are supposed to be in focus. And it's very interesting to have these two initiatives sitting next to each other in meetings and panels and all that. But have you been able to discuss already how you would like the two initiatives to remain complementary? Because, yeah, I expect Roman can say something there.
Yeah, it's a beginning of response just because we are here to initiate the discussion. Indeed, the paper that we plan to do is to collaboratively identify all the functions that we have. We have the training that is well identified, but all things that are before the training. For instance, the literacy, the sensitivity on the initiation of literacy, but also the support that is necessary when you have trained people to push the démarche or a service or the good appropriation of what is existing. It's out of the training. And we need to integrate that, taking into account the specificity of each community. Some of them are well advanced and with a high level of data management practice. Others are beginning completely. And sometimes the first difficulty is to define the perimeter of the community, to see what are the needs and what will be the necessary dimension of help and services that we will have to provide.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you spoiled the third questions because this was... But anyway, I think that we should also improve our collaboration, maybe identifying common quality metrics for learning resources and also sharing this methodology for the curricula. And yeah.
Also about the organizational aspect of having this whole network of competence centers, which would be very valuable from the perspective of OSCARs, and the other way around. The other way around, the domain-specific offer of competencies, and these are virtual hubs, of course, so there will be, again, an overlap with your network, but how to make sure that we organize that in such a way that is transparent to both the trainers and the trainees?
Something that we have to tackle, maybe organizing some meetings and discussing this, because, I mean...
maybe we have a... So the training network that we developed had maybe a completely different approach, because it's not project funding driven, it's actually older than EOSC. And the approach was very simple, like the GitHub model for software development. Just create a good infrastructure that people are willing to use, and then let the community get crazy. So this is kind of a very simple approach that we did, and I very much appreciate the comment about the open educational resources. I think, and I think we showed that this is working. If you develop a nice infrastructure where people, so trainers, but also trainees, but also funders can actually contribute open educational resources, which is by default fair, this turned out, at least for our community, to be very, very successful. And it's actually surviving a lot of these different funding rounds and so on, because it's a community-driven project in the end, which is not strictly bound to project funding.
That's the similarity with the initiative which is now being funded. That's the similarity with the initiative that is now funded under OSCARs, because the leading parties there are the clusters, and the clusters are thematic research infrastructure that have a life of their own, that have different in each cluster, but that have had collaborations before, that have models of permanent collaboration with MOUs or other models. So they too deliver their contribution to OSCARs based on what was pre-existing. So there, and I know that you are, I know a little bit about Galaxy, and I can imagine that having this repository, or how you, I don't know how you call it, but this platform can play a role, but it's not domain specific, huh? No. So and we, the thinking underlying OSCAR's Work Package 1 is that each community or each domain may, on top of generic things, including generic aspects for training, also will have specific domain-specific needs, and that's the part that will be in focus for OSCARs. And then again, it would be good if the other networks, including Galaxy and Skills for EOSC, are aware of this diversity, or this level of granularity, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
I would like to just complete with the fact that training is one dimension. Oh.
Now.
Training is one dimension, but there are others. For instance, support is really essential for lots of different kind of service, more than training for some services, just because some researchers will not have time and they need some help or some human power. And that will also be a part of this competence center that will provide this expertise
But that requires funding. So that's maybe not a sustainable
indeed,
model.
Indeed, to fund something, we want to before identify it. So to identify that, that's the reason why we try to have a kind of overview of what is existing and what are the needs in a paper commonly written to after try to define something that could be a conceptual model of what we want.
Okay, thank you. I think we have to move on. Oh, no, sorry, excuse me. There's still one question. Okay, yes.
Thank you. My name is Ulrich Bundke. I'm the technical director of the NV Hub Next. So in principle, it's a fundamental question. So we have heard today lots of nodes. And now we see competence centers. And I think both have to be joined because a node without the competences are nothing.
Spoil the second question.
Exactly. I think
Okay.
you are the future teller.
I'm
now.
the future one.
Yes.
Thanks.
Exactly. So let us move to the second question. So what should be the role of competence centers in the EOSC Federation and nodes? So about the future.
Yes, in our discussion yesterday, we analyzed this role of the Skills for EOSC Competence Centers in the EOSC ecosystem, and we agreed that competence centers should be integrated. In some cases, competence centers in our network will be also EOSC node. And anyway, the competence centers can work towards the deployment of EOSC. And also, I would like to underline that we have a specific action towards the policymaker. And I think that it's very important also to make the things, for the researchers, but also in order to make EOSC really usable to convince at this stage also the policymaker level.
Yes, thank you.
So I have to say that when I got this question, it's the one that I spend most time on because I have no idea how to respond. So ultimately, I figure out I can have two responses. One is representing EVERS, which probably is more relevant, and that's kind of my own thought. As EVERS, what I would argue is that a competence center should essentially tackle the standards, the knowledge base, and ensure that this is aligned as much as possible across the communities, across the domains. The EOSC node is essentially the operational structure that builds on the competence centers and provides services that are maintained, that are provided structurally, through funding. I have no idea how the EOSC node might work in that context, to build on this knowledge. That would be the one responding, again, with a grain of salt, because I honestly have no clear idea how EOSC node is defined. Personally speaking, I would argue that these two, the competence center and the EOSC node, are quite well aligned. The competence center itself is the more community-driven, how to align the different expertise that is being built throughout many years so far. So it's pre-existing EOSC in that sense. An EOSC node is how to structurally organize this across domains. But again, that's kind of my thoughts. So again, with a grain of salt.
Yeah, perhaps it's also personal thoughts on my side. First, we could ask the question differently and say, is it possible to have a node without competence center? I would like to say, if we don't have a clear definition of a node, why not? And the second thing to say is competence center is not really necessary in some actions and services. And we have to not forget that indeed a node is something that could be the perimeter of a community, but also it can be transversal. And the objective for me of a competence center is to share competencies where they are not existing. And that's also another vision. You can have a node and competence centers that are for all the nodes, transversal. For instance, between clusters, we want to share some competence that are well developed in one cluster, in another cluster. So responding, it's not a real response to this question, but that shows that it can be also not exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but I can only second that. I think a competence center can be horizontal, but that probably depends a lot of what kind of node you have. I mean, if you have a thematic node, it probably makes a lot of sense that this thematic node also has a competence center attached, as Foto said, as a knowledge hub, etc. But if you have a national node, there are probably cases where you want to have competence centers that are horizontal to multiple nodes to actually spread the knowledge and to also align experts from different nationalities.
Thank you. Can we ask Suvini to read the comments, because maybe it will be easier from your side? There are some valuable inputs.
Yes, to answer your question, you can read that as well. What should be the role of competence centers in the EOSC Federation and nodes? CC should provide training and support to make the most of data and services available in the EOSC. I'm sorry, I can't say your name. They should be integrated as just another node service, but dual edge for the researchers and for trainers. The two populations may even overlap. The third person says CCs cannot be offered in an EU node structure without a financial model. Competent people don't come cheap.
Thank you. Would you like to comment on? And the audience? Any questions or comments, please? Yes. Can we get a mic, please?
Thanks. Maybe I'm behind the rest of the room in terms of knowledge, but could you give a concrete example of what would be a node and what would be a competence center, like with a topic, I don't know, topic in biology or in humanities or something, like a name of the competence center and a name of the node, and yeah, to try to understand them better?
Yeah, so for example, in Italy, we have a competence center, it's called ECDI. And yeah, it collects, different communities from different sectors. And thanks also, to Skills for EOSC, because he is a participant of Skills for EOSC, we are now at the moment participating with master trainer from ECDI to this course on Science for Policy. So our master trainer from the Italian competence centers will acquire competencies on how to deal with the policymaker level in order to develop a good policy strategy for their institution. So this is a concrete example. Then this master trainer will make for the Italian community the course on Science for Policy, and in this course will be involved people from different sectors and domains. Of course, the Skills for EOSC also offer a few specific domain training on open science and fair data research management, on issues, for example, how to deal with IPR and ethical issues. But these are only four domains. So we have the social science and humanities, the climate change, the solid earth science, and the museums for the digital collection. So the mechanism is the same. The competence center's master trainer will attend this course and then will replicate the course for the research national communities. So, and this is something very concrete. Before Skills for EOSC, the competence centers already provided some courses and training activities and upskilling for this community. So it's a well-established competence center.
And then when you want to bring in the node, you don't know yet what would be the topic of the node, if it would be the same but at European level, or if it would be more...
So ECDI, it's a part of the Competence Center, it's a part of ECDI, and they are actively participating in shaping the Italian node.
Okay.
So it's coordinated action. They are not the node. The node is another foundation, another project, but they are involved in the process in designing the Italian node. So yeah, they are very much linked, let's say.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have another question. Can I ask you?
Anka Hienola from Finnish Met Institute. A crazy idea. What if you create a node of the competence centers?
Yes, we call
That
it
would
node.
be actually centralized everything, easier for the researchers to find the users, to find everything they need. I mean, it's not that crazy. Instead of having everything spread around in 3,000 nodes, you will have a node for competence centers, and everybody can also link to whatever competence center there is in the node.
Yes, we are trying to do this. The network that we are building, it's a kind of node, as you want to call it. So it's
so
like
you
this.
have
We have to be scalable, and so we have this, let's say, we can call it node, and then the national nodes of the network of skills for EOSC can have then also federated other competence centers that are at organization level or regional level. So yes, I think this is the direction that we want to go in a way, and it's what we are doing.
I know, because the idea came from the network. You have, you started already, so.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there is a sense sometimes to put together things that are not really well related. For instance, you have some competence centers that can be focused. It's just an idea, because in OSCAR we are not at the step where we have a good definition of a competence center in each cluster. We have a generic definition that is acknowledged by all colleagues in OSCAR, but now we need to discuss it for each communities, and in each clusters there is not only one community but a kind of forest of communities, and for them there are translational needs, and there are some specific needs. For instance, data curation. You can curate data, you have lots of things to curate data, even if you are not in the discipline. But after, when you take ecological data and you want to curate them on astronomical data and you want to curate them, it's absolutely not the same work. And that is not the same means that are necessary. So if you are not able to go deeper in the definition of what you need and what you want to apply it, you will federate things and agglomerate it, but without an idea of the effect of this agglomeration. For me, when you federate something, it's that you have an advantage to harmonize the function. So perhaps before trying to well define the functions behind the services, and after, we will be able to see in this community that makes sense or not.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the contributions also online. Björn, would you like to take also, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is I don't know if a node is a solution to this problem. I mean, just adding another abstraction layer on top, or taking a node as a findability thing that people can find competences better. I don't know, it sounds weird, but maybe I just need to think more about that. But in general, and I think that this discussion here between Jordi and Kevin, I think is quite nice. I think if we talk about competences, we need to make, I think, in my opinion, competences are worldwide. And we don't need to talk much about EOSC here, because a competence center, right, should ideally be a community of experts. However you define that, if you put that in a node, if you put that in a competence center, but ideal, it's a worldwide community with experts that help each other. That's why I really like this discussion, and I kind of agree that, yes, funding would accelerate things, funding would help, but I think Jordi has a point, and we have seen that in at least computer science with a website that is called Stack Overflow, that was over 10 years a hub where everyone helped each other, right? Where essentially you had an infrastructure where people can help each other, and it was popular, everyone knew about it in this domain, right? Having something similar for domains that is really worldwide, you can actually get people even unpaid, right, to help each other, because they ask the question, they get help, they provide help next. So I think that that's an interesting discussion which we should more think about it, how to leverage this power of the community, right? And I guess my answer is we need good infrastructures for that, to actually do that. Stack Overflow is now vanishing because of AI, right? So, and it was a company ultimately, right? It sold data. So it's not the perfect model, but it showed us very nicely what the community is actually capable of. And I would wish that our competence centers is going more in this direction for specific communities. And if a node, if we put everything under the umbrella of node is helpful, hey, cool, let's go for it. I'm just currently a little bit skeptical because it's just another abstraction layer. And
Okay, thank you. I think we have to move towards the third question. There will be Q&A session, and as we know, there are many questions waiting online for our panelists and for the audience. So let's move quickly to the third one. So the question is, as a representative of your project, and obviously towards the thematic regional national competence centers, what would you need from the other projects? So we are searching for synergies.
Yes,
And complementarities.
For sure, we were thinking to write a common position paper of the competence centers. So this is something that can help us also in this discussion. And it would be very useful for the European level, that since we are in the phase of defining and designing the EOSC nodes and all this, the ecosystem. And so that the position of the competence centers could help in this debate, but also at national level and also in the community level, because so this could help also the creation of these new competence centers and new community of researchers that support each other like the professional network.
I would like to thank you to talk about this paper. I think that it will be a key component for the following steps and tasks that we could have together, taking into account all other projects. That is a good thing, and we have to involve you, if you are in a project, to define what is a service, what is your community, what are the needs of services that you could have. But also, there are also services that are not existing or not well developed in several communities. I am thinking to, for instance, some societies challenge, like the biodiversity challenge, the pandemic challenge, the climate challenge, and sometimes for meta-analysis, we don't have really a lot of services and help and support for researchers. Perhaps there are some needs that need to be more targeted out of existing projects also. So existing projects will help us to define the needs, actual needs, and response to some needs today, but we have also to think about what is missing out of it.
Thank you. So now, Fotis, Björn, would you like to comment shortly?
I think I kind of agree so far. The extra point I would add is that for IVR specifically, it would be very useful to see what are the existing models that actually kind of work, different options, and how this could be replicated or adopted or adapted in the case of this software.
Thank you.
I mean, as a Euroscience Gateway project, we provide the computational, the storage, and the training infrastructure, kind of. So what we need is the experts, the different communities that are using those services and providing knowledge. But I guess I'm quite happy. So Skills for Ears contributed, Fotis contributed already multiple times. So I think we are going in the right direction. So I'm quite happy, actually.
Yeah, I think so. Even in the wording we were using while we were contacting, this is our brother project. Yes. So this
and I think that it's very important from our experience to learn how the system from Euroscience Gateway, it's so, I mean, open science compliant, and it was very useful. So I think that in this exercise we can exchange a lot of experience and methodology, because in the end we should also align a certain quality of our training, even if they are in different domains and they are dealing with different topics, but a certain quality should be shared.
Absolutely, lesson learned, and it brings us forward. Thank you very much. Now we will read quickly the comments, and we will move to the questions.
Yes, Jordy says, I would like a repository of reusable outputs and a place where to exchange, comment, and build on these outputs. Someone else says, in your paper, it would be useful to highlight the value in bringing so different scientific clusters together, like from astrophysics to humanities. And Francesco says, a common repository for OER learning material and a common LMS platform where the material is served as a pedagogical sequences and shared guidelines to work on both.
Thank you. So now let the participant to challenge you. I think I have to wait for the screen. Yes, now the additional questions from the audience here in the room, but also online questions, if I may. So are you ready for the challenge from the public? Anyone? Yes? Okay.
Hi. Is it on? I have a question. For me, it's very hard to get the idea of the competence center rightly. So if I'm a researcher at a research institute, and I want to show my team what open science practices are, should I call you? How can I get to this competence center and make it visible? Or is it, for example, how are the regional and thematic centers clustered, and where can I see them?
Will just a shameless plug of my stuff. I mean, in our case, go to training.galaxyproject.org. There is a section about fair training, or fair in general. And there you have a lot of slides, a lot of hands-on training. You will learn about row crates. All the stuff that you hear here in multiple talks is there explained, step-by-step introduction. You have even videos for that, so you can check that out. So that's from the infrastructure that we provide, and people have contributed for your topic now, the fair, how to learn what is fair and so on. There's a bunch of different topics that you can look at.
And for Skills for EOSC, you can go to the learning platform, and there you can find all the courses. They are, self-paced course. You can download the material. We have, not deliver all the courses, so at the moment you have only the course on the fair by design methodology, and then the course that we are delivering now on science for policy. And here we are tackling open science, but with a specific accent to the policymaker. And on Zenodo, you can find also all the material. There are a lot of events,
About this, I think that we will have to demonstrate for some community the utility of some services to be used. And that's another key point that we have to provide, how to sensibilize and how to push certain services to ameliorate the result of research. For instance, some curation is not evident for some researcher, but we have to push it.
So it seems to me that when we speak about competence, we must agree that it's something to do with a high level of competence at some specific professional level. And I don't understand why we can speak of this in a European context without speaking about financing and governance. I mean, you wouldn't give your competence to somebody for free. And from the point of view of a good researcher, if it's for free, it probably isn't worth having.
The topic of the paper is governance. And behind governance, there is also means, indeed.
I would echo Bjorn's point of what, but I could also, I would also argue that, at least in the academic context, a colleague often refers to that there are three main gains that one can aim for. One is the actual financial reward. The other one is the academic reward, which is usually translated as papers. And the third one is recognition, which ultimately will probably lead to either of the two first. But these are the three kind of reward systems that kind of work. a lot of the resources that Bjorn mentioned around training are free in the sense that the community is building them. It's not free maintaining the infrastructure that hosts these materials. That's true. But actually putting them together and maintaining them, curating them, is effort that is community driven. The value of that is not always financial. It can be a recognition framework that says that you can push this and be part of your CV, and this can ultimately have an impact for yourself specifically. So I fully agree that it needs to be a model, a rewarding model of all those open resources at some point. For the community centers, yes, you need to have a financial model to sustain them, because they will need to provide the infrastructure and have some people to actually organize all these efforts together. But all in all, I'm a bit torn between which part needs to be supported on that level and which needs to be a community-driven activity.
I totally agree. I mean, in Skills for EOSC, we rely on existing competence centers. I mean, they are there and they are doing this as their daily work. And so the problem is that they need also to improve the material of the training about open science and the fairness. And so we are offering something that they are really demand. And then for the trainees, yes, I agree that they need to be awarded. And so the recognition framework, it's a way to have this recognition at a European level, since we are European more than...
Okay. Björn, would you like to add something, or we can move to the online question, just to keep balance between in-the-house questions and online? Or may we have one question from the online participants? Just.
Yes, so the most voted question is, what is your relationship with the carpentries? All.
No, I think maybe the second question or the third one as well.
Yeah, who decides who can become a competence center? We have someone over here that would like to add to that, I think.
All right.
Ah, a support for that first question.
All right, so I can just say that in the countries, EVERS is not directly tied to the carpentries, period. We are aware of the countries and we want to reuse the training material and training resources that they provide. Personally, I am part of the countries, so that's the connection, I guess. Sorry? Yeah, Gallantries, yes, right, sorry. There was a big-ish project that was between Galaxy and Countries about it. Can you use the mic? Yeah, sorry. There was a project called Gallantries that was a direct collaboration between Galaxy and the countries that was also about putting training materials and all that in place.
Yes. So the second, is it enough satisfactory, or would you like to respond? What is your relationship with the carpentries? So that's the question. Would you like to respond? The first one, yes. It was a request that everyone respond.
Can I expand on the question, even though it's not mine?
Yes.
So, the Carpentries being a big organization that's dedicated to and focused around training people in fundamental research skills, are you using their work? Are you using their open framework for their workbench for lesson development, things like that? Are you making use of Carpentries resources? Is it going through Carpentries training or pointing to that as a way of trainers to learn, things like that?
Regarding Skills for EOSC, at the moment we are concentrated in delivering our, courses, and we don't have this link. But yeah, it's a nice suggestion. We can also go to this. At the moment, no.
I mean, just to highlight maybe what Fotis was saying, so we even had an official EU grant with the Carpentries and the Galaxy Training Network together to work together on infrastructure and training material. I think this project ended last year, so there's no finance yet, but the collaboration is ongoing.
Okay. Next one, so maybe no one in the room.
So maybe I'm a bit slow in understanding in this case, please apologize. But you said a lot that you were building up on existing structures and existing people doing existing training work. So my question would be, do you foresee some kind of competition between all of that? Because to build up on the question before, if I would have training material, where do I put it? Is it better to have like skills for EOS on my CV or EOS Everse or a competence center, or does it matter? So maybe that's kind of a nasty question, sorry for that, but do you foresee that when we add more and more layers that it gets more and more difficult for people to actually be part of it? And how do we incentivize people?
I have a piece of response, but Ingrid Dillot said we have to work on inclusivity. And that's an important point for me. We have lots of tools for competition, too much perhaps. And perhaps we need more tools to integrate all peoples, even if they are not the better, but they are one of good. And for this, we are trying in the EOSC project to develop the data steward registry that would be a kind of federation of people that have skills around data management, but also, why not, also in software world, and others, but with other things than LinkedIn or existing social media in the landscape of research. So for that, we need also ideas on existing communities, because we will not drop them. And we need for that a good consultation, because some communities are really well organized, and they are able to reward peoples and to not lost means, because before having more means, it is better to try, at least as a first stage, to not lost things by reinventing the well. That's a piece of response. I know that it's not responding to all the questions.
So maybe one response from the audience, and I'm afraid we have to finish.
Just a provocative question. Tomorrow I want to decide to create a competence center in digital twins from EOS. Who can stop me about that, about this terminology? And I say it's a EOS project. You know it's an EOS project, but it's under umbrella of EOS. Who can stop me about it? Or
but it's a game, I don't understand. It's a real
in fact, it matches with the online question, who decides to become a competence center?
I would like to respond a bit provocative also. If lots of researchers are using your competence center, you win.
Okay, finishing.
It's a bit provocative.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have to close our Unconference session. So let me thank you all, our panelists, project experts, the audience, for extremely interesting session which you have co-created with us. Thank you for very interesting inputs, comments, sharing your experiences, your doubts, and inspiring ideas, I would say. Obviously, we were not able to present all the comments and all the questions, but as I say, we will ensure that they are in the follow-up materials. So now we would like to wish you the nice and inspiring sessions during the EOSC Symposium, and obviously you shall enjoy Berlin. Thank you very much. Yeah.